All right. So, hello, everybody, and happy New Year, 2026. So, I would like to start by apologizing that this program couldn't be aired live earlier on in the morning. It was supposed to be the ZNBC live streaming of the Ndalama Insights radio program. However, I encountered a technical problem. The sound and the camera just couldn't come on, and I was running short of time, and I was being rushed. But I would still like us to discuss this further, and also to just stay in touch, or to touch base rather with all of you. I know have been quiet for some time now, but I would like to say I am back, and starting from today, basically, I'm going to be much more active on YouTube. I took time off deliberately just to observe, be silent, watch the market, and see what people are up to. So I want us to engage this morning. For those of you that are online and can hear me, let's have a chat. I had the program earlier with Chilufia in the morning on radio. It was fantastic, and I didn't want to not record this. So I'm doing it from my office after the radio program, so that I can just share a few points that I had to share this morning. So the question that many Zambians ask, especially when they hear the headlines in the news, inflation is now single digit. We hear the kwacha is appreciating against the dollar. We've seen fuel prices coming down. I think now petrol is at 27.88 kwacha per liter. So when we see all these headlines and news, we get so excited, and we are thinking that it's going to make a difference in our pockets, but it really does. So the question is, why is it that despite inflation being single digit, despite fuel prices coming down, despite the appreciation of the Zambian kwacha, I am still broke? Is that a question that you ask yourself? It's a question that I ask myself. But we need to understand a few things. And the basic starting point is understanding what inflation is, because there's a huge misconception out there as to what inflation is. So inflation is the rate at which the cost of prices for goods and services increases or changes. So it's the rate at which the prices for goods and services changes. So when we hear inflation has gone up, let's say to 11%, and you were buying a bag of mealie meal, maybe in ShopRite at 200 kwacha, this is just an example, and then inflation is at 11%, is going up at 11%. It simply means that you may buy a bag of mealie meal at about 220 kwacha, because the increase in inflation is 11%. Assuming that the inflation comes down to 9%, what that simply means is that the rate at which the inflation is going down, the prices are going up, has reduced. So now you will buy the bag of mealie meal at 218 kwacha rather than 222 kwacha. So inflation is the rate at which the prices of goods and services goes up. And so when we hear that inflation has come down, it doesn't mean that the prices for the goods and services are automatically going to come down. It simply means that the rate at which they are increasing has come down. If we're ever going to see prices coming down drastically, it means that the inflation will have to drop to zero, or a minus, a negative. That is when we are able to, that is when we will be able to see a drastic, reduction in prices for goods and services, because then the inflation rate is negative or is zero. It means that the prices for goods and services are not changing. That's what it would translate to. And so if you want to understand how inflation works, that's a fundamental point that you need to get. So that is why when you see changes in inflation, you rarely see it affecting you. However, in the long term, we expect that we should be able to feel the general effect in the prices for goods and services, but it takes time to adjust. Which brings me to the second point, and that is the dollar. Again, very good news that we've been seeing, particularly for me who buys products online. I buy some of my services online. For example, subscription to my website. There's some tools that I use. I buy them online. They're in US dollar. And with the appreciation of the Zambian kwacha, it becomes cheaper for me. But the impact or the advantage of the appreciating kwacha is more for those that import their goods mainly and services. So they are the ones that will feel the appreciation of the Zambian kwacha mostly. Majority of us Zambians, local, we don't import any goods or services. We rarely feel the appreciation of the Zambian kwacha. Let me give an example of your rent. Many of us, our rent is in Zambian kwacha. So it has nothing to do, it's not linked directly with the appreciation of the US dollar. Our school fees, many products and services that we use that are manufactured within Zambia, they've got no direct link with the exchange rate. And therefore, even where we see the US dollar depreciating against the kwacha or the kwacha appreciating against the dollar, it will not affect us directly because we are not directly importing these goods and services. So for majority Zambians, again, the effect will not be felt. But however, even for the goods that are imported within the country, it will take time for us to feel the effect because many companies buy in bulk. And for them to fill the old stock that they bought at a higher exchange rate, it might take a little bit of time. And so for some time, the price will still be maintained at that rate. And however, despite me saying this, once prices go up, it is rare that companies feel happy to reduce these prices. So many times, when your landlord, for example, if you rent a house, if your landlord increases the rent, it is very rare. I've never actually heard in Zambia where a landlord said, okay, I'm reducing the rentals. So generally, this applies across many expense lines. Once prices go up, it's rare that they come down. But good news is, yesterday I saw in the news, the Zambia Association of Manufacturers, with some of their members announcing reduction in their products. I heard about sugar. There's a likelihood that the price for sugar will come down, and some other products that they had mentioned. And so this seems like a positive vibe. If we look at fuel again, fuel is the same concept really. So we see when fuel goes up, many times the transporters automatically increase the prices for the bus fares. We see that happening. But when the fuel price comes down, they take a little bit of time, and they normally require a little bit of pushing for them to drop down the prices. So many business people are not happy to adjust their prices downwards, to adjust their prices downwards. And so that is why even where we see these economic indicators are performing really well, we don't see the impact in our pockets. But what I like to say is that at the end of the day, there is also what is referred to as lifestyle inflation. And this is where you take control of your finances yourself. And no wonder I always talk about saving and investments, because if we look at you can save money, but for you to beat inflation, you will need to invest that money, and you need to invest it in investments that are going to give you a return which is higher than the inflation rate. Yes, some of us do receive annual salary increments. On paper, it sounds very fantastic, but as long as your household budget is higher than that salary increment or than the inflation, there is still no net effect. It's zero net effect. Because whereas you've got this 13% salary increment, like announced by KCM, for example, and then at the same time, your expenditure is also going up by 13%. for whatever reason, the net effect is zero. So it requires financial discipline and good money management for you to survive and for you to ensure that you've got a little bit of money set aside for investments that can beat the inflation and that can allow you to start growing your money and attain your financial goals. So that is really the essence of understanding inflation, understanding the appreciation of the Zambian kwacha, understanding changes in fuel, and any other economic factor. You will not feel the impact directly. It requires you to understand what is happening and to adjust your household expenditure accordingly. That is what it requires. Otherwise, you just continue talking and complaining about how you're not feeling it in your pocket. So when I talk about discipline and adjusting your budget accordingly, it's about, yes, I've received this annual salary increment, but that doesn't mean that I should also increase my expenditure, go to a more expensive house, or increase my budget, things that I don't necessarily need, continue buying them, subscriptions to TV channels that I don't even watch, and things like that. So personal finance comes down to these factors. So that's what I wanted to communicate to you this morning. I faced a technical problem. However, I think I understand what's going on. Next week, I will try to ensure that the camera and they said it was saying the sound were not coming on, and I'll try to ensure that is on. However, the good news is I'm back after taking a short break. It was a deliberate break. I think that sometimes it's important to rest and also to just observe what is going on. It is very important. And so there's a number of changes that are going to take place on this channel, particularly YouTube, maybe not on the Ndalama Insights radio program, but particularly on YouTube. My focus is going to be not just on Zambia, but Africa, because I think financial literacy is something that affects many Africans and not just Zambians. And so going forward, you may see me discussing topics that may touch on many African countries, because I'm trying to get a wider reach on my YouTube channel. And so my strategy from 2026 going forward really is to try to tap into the African market in terms of financial literacy and education. And that is why I had to take a short break to reflect and see where this channel is heading. I hope you found some useful nuggets in this program. I just didn't want to have it hanging like that, hey? Like coming live. So I just had to do it. So expect more. And I thank you so much for those that are watching online. And yeah, see you next time.